This video is intended for students of Lakehead University and provides a general overview of the academic integrity investigation process as outlined in Lakehead University's Student Code of Conduct Academic Integrity Policy. If this video does not answer your specific questions, we encourage you to visit the resources section of the Student Conduct webpage. To navigate there, start by clicking on the student menu from Lakehead's homepage, and then select Student Life and Student Conduct. On the Student Conduct landing page, you'll see the actual code, which you can download and read for yourself. But there are also a few other very useful resources available here as well, such as the Student Conduct one-pager, which is a condensed summary of the Student Code of Conduct policy and outlines the main responsibilities and academic expectations we have for all of our students here at Lakehead. There's also the Frequently Asked Questions link for academic integrity. Often the tendency is to ignore FAQ sections of websites, but the list is actually a great place to start because it covers all of the main questions our office typically receives related to student conduct and academic integrity investigations. So if you have a question, we recommend you start by looking through the FAQs. You may not need to reach out to our office directly with your questions, as they likely are answered here. There are also a bunch of other valuable resources to various supports, proactive resources, and tools, so be sure to check those out as well. For the remainder of this video, however, we will be referring to the Academic Integrity Investigation Process flowchart for students, which you can see here. We highly recommend you download this flowchart, especially if you are currently under investigation for a breach of academic integrity. Often students will keep a copy of this close at hand in order to know what to expect and what to do at each step along the way. Let's take a look at it now and go through each of the 4 steps briefly. Step 1 of the Academic Integrity Investigation process occurs when your instructor first informs you of a suspected breach using a letter template called the Advisory of Suspected Breach, or Form 1. This letter should be sent through your Lakehead email within 10 business days of detection, or 3 business days if related to a final exam. Receiving this formal letter can be extremely stressful, but please remember that this just means that your instructor noticed something in your work that they believe might be a violation of the Student Code of Conduct and they wish to connect to talk about it more. It does not mean that you are guilty, and even if an academic misconduct has occurred, it does not mean that you're automatically going to get expelled from Lakehead or removed from your program. Keep in mind that your instructor is required to follow this formal procedure to ensure that you, as a student, receive a fair and consistent process. At this point, you are not required to do anything. Just read the information provided to you on Form 1. You'll likely notice that a copy of this letter was also sent to Student Conduct within Student Affairs. And this is simply to determine who will be carrying out the rest of the process. If you're an undergraduate student with no prior record, then your instructor will be advised to proceed with the investigation. However, if you are a graduate student, if there are multiple allegations against you, if this is a repeat offense, or if the alleged violation took place during a final exam or midterm exam from a full credit equivalent course, then the case will be referred to your dean for investigation. This moves us on to step 2. 3 to 6 business days after receiving the advisory letter, you should receive another letter template or Form 2 from either your instructor or your dean, letting you know who will be carrying out the investigation. This letter also initiates the process of setting up a meeting and also includes other important information, so be sure to read it carefully. You will want to pay close attention to the description of the alleged violation. Perhaps there was a paragraph of uncited text in an assignment, so your instructor believes that you plagiarized. Or maybe there was a specific answer on your midterm that was very similar to another student's in the class, so your instructor wants to talk about whether you collaborated on the exam. If the description is too vague and you're not able to understand what you are being accused of, feel free to respectfully ask your instructor or dean for more details, realizing, however, that you will also have an opportunity to talk about the specifics when you meet. At this stage, you are required to take action. You must email the instructor or dean within 3 business days to acknowledge receipt of Form 2 and begin making necessary arrangements to meet at the earliest convenient time. If you fail to respond at this stage, the case will then be referred to your dean, or a decision may be made without your input. Moving on to step 3 now, which is the meeting with your instructor or dean. This meeting usually occurs in person, but in some situations may be done remotely via Zoom or phone. During this meeting, your instructor or dean will likely begin by reviewing the evidence with you and should explain how your behavior was a violation of the Academic Integrity Code. You will also have a chance to ask questions and seek further clarification, respond, and explain yourself. We encourage you to do some preparation ahead of time to get ready for this meeting. Some students find themselves very nervous, so it could be helpful to perhaps jot down your thoughts or come with some notes. That way you can help ensure that what you communicate is thoughtful and organized. If you plan to bring a support person with you, such as a family member, friend, or ombudsperson, be sure to let your instructor know this in advance. And remember that the support person is not supposed to speak or ask questions on your behalf. Their role is to simply attend the meeting with you to provide moral support. Make sure that they know that too. Sometimes parents want to attend and talk for you, which isn't allowed under the policy. Although you do not have to write a written response, it is encouraged, as it is helpful to ensure that the instructor or dean has a clear record of your testimony. You are able to submit a written statement either prior to your meeting or within 5 business days after your meeting. Just let your instructor or dean know your intentions so they can wait before proceeding to Step 4. Step 4 marks the end of the investigation process. At this stage, you should receive a Form 4, or a Declaration of Outcome letter, which lets you know whether the instructor or dean has decided to uphold or dismiss the allegation. You should receive this form within 10 business days after meeting with your instructor or dean. And if the decision is to dismiss the allegations, then the case is now closed. Nothing will show on your record, and no sanctions will be applied. If the allegations are upheld, however, then the instructor or dean will implement some form of sanction or penalty, and a record of the violation will be kept in the student conduct database, which is separate from your academic record. If you're wondering about the various types of disciplinary action or sanctions, penalties for common incidents often range from a formal warning or a requirement to resubmit an assignment, often with a reduced mark, to a grade of 0 on an assignment, test, or examination. In addition, some instructors will also add an educational requirement, such as the AIM course, or a referral to meet with a student success advisor or writing coach. More serious violations or repeat offenses often are addressed by giving students a reduction in their overall grade of the course, or they're given a 0 on the course, which is then noted on the transcript as academic misconduct. And lastly, the most egregious violations might warrant suspension, expulsion, or rescission of degree. The last thing worth mentioning is related to appeals. If there was a substantial procedural or factual error, if there is significant new or relevant information that was not considered in the original decision, or if you received an excessive sanction, then you can choose to submit an appeal if one of these grounds has been met. If you wish to appeal the decision made by your instructor, then you would submit a Form 5 or academic appeal letter to the dean within 10 business days of receiving the Declaration of Outcome letter and copy student affairs on the email. If one of the grounds for an appeal has been met, then the dean would review the case and decide whether to change the decision made by your instructor and whether to decrease, increase, or keep the sanction as is. If you wish to appeal the decision made by your dean, then you would follow the appeal policy and judicial panel procedures within 15 business days of receiving the Declaration of Outcome decision letter. This appeal goes to the secretary of the judicial panel and will be reviewed at an appeal tribunal. If one of the grounds for an appeal has been met, the judicial panel will review the case and decide whether to change the decision made by your dean, and whether to decrease, increase, or keep the sanction as is. That concludes our overview of the academic integrity investigation process for students. If you have any questions, again, please start by reviewing the frequently asked questions on the Student Conduct website under the Resources section. And if you cannot find an answer to your questions, please do not hesitate to contact the Manager of Student Conduct and Case Management at the address on the screen.